Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Happy to see that we were able to figure this out and get set up online.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, before we kind of dive into things, how are things going so far?
They're okay. A little stressed out still, I guess.
Okay. And how did your homework go? Were you able to complete it, or not? And if not, what stopped you?
I think, um, sorry, I did it, but not so formally, because I was thinking about things that maybe will give me some relief from stress, and things like taking a walk or reading a book or just watching like trash TV or something like that. But I don't think I really did any of those things to reduce stress.
Okay. Um, well, I mean, that was the assignment, right? Was to try and find some of those things that you would find to be less stressful. And it sounds like you did come up with some really good ideas. Um, I I would agree. Those are some really good things to read a book or go for a walk. I know that I love to watch a good trash TV show every now and again. So that's good. And when you were coming up with that list, how was that for you? Did you find it to be a somewhat easy process as far as coming up with those ideas, or was it a little more challenging?
It was pretty challenging because I didn't really don't do too many things for myself. I realized, well, because I constantly try to make others happy or comfortable, or and then I just end up being grouchy or something. So it
Okay.
was kind of hard to come up with those.
Okay. So definitely something that you may want to continue to build as we continue down this process, or this path of, finding ways to work through that stress and that anxiety. Maybe trying to find new things, especially now that you're in a new place. Maybe you'll find some new ideas or some new ways to kind of alleviate that stress.
Yeah.
So let's dive a little deeper into the stress itself. So last week we talked about, the move itself, packing everything up, having to kind of say goodbye, and things like that. So now that you've gotten there and everything's been put away and you're kind of settling in, where is the source of the stress right now?
I think it's just a lot different than what I thought it would be. It's kind of rural here. I don't have my vehicle up here just yet, so I've kind of been like contained to the house, and which it's not really a problem, I guess. But I kind of want to go out and do stuff, but my boyfriend gets home from work and he's really exhausted, and then on his days off he just wants to rest, which I understand, or like get errands done, which I understand too. But it's like I just feel like I'm kind of I don't really know what I'm doing here.
Okay.
Okay.
And have you, well, let me backtrack. How long have you been there now?
A week.
A week. Okay. So it was right after our session you moved. Um, and in that week, have you started looking into different things that you could do to help you kind of find, I guess, your niche in a sense?
Well, it's really hard right now because I don't have a car, and there's nothing within walking distance. So, I mean, even if I do look into things, I would have to rely on someone else for transportation.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that could be a little difficult to kind of maneuver through new things and find new activities to do. That could definitely be a little difficult. Um, so, what are some things that you think you could do that maybe don't require transportation?
I think I can kind of delve into something like more like project like, not necessarily like a project, but keeping myself busy and like mentally like challenging myself. I think that'll really help
Okay.
instead of just relying on someone else to show me around or to go somewhere.
Okay. And what are some projects that you usually like to do?
It's been such a long time since I actually have time to myself. I think I just don't, I'm not used to having time for myself. Like not being on the go 24/7 and not having to worry about so many things. And I have to learn to be okay being bored, or I have to learn to be okay with just being by myself. And that's kind of scary because I don't usually do
Okay. So it sounds like you're in a new place, still trying to get settled and sort things out. Um, and on top of trying to learn a new place and a new area, you're also kind of having to get used to having time on your hands and having the option to decide when to do things and what to do because there's not really much being, I guess, asked of you right now. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's definitely something that over time you start working on. You can think about different projects or different activities that would interest you, um, so that you can kind of find or think of those activities that maybe you've always wanted to try and you've just never had the time. Now may be a good time to think about those things that you've always been interested in, and maybe now is a good time to try them.
Yeah.
It sounds like you do have an opportunity, so, you know, maybe giving yourself a chance to see what happens, in a sense. And
Yeah.
how else is everything going? So you're living with your boyfriend now, and you said you're running errands and you're doing things, and how's that going as far as being in that area?
It's really weird. Because it's very one color. it's,
Okay.
it's very white rural community. It's up in the mountains, and the location is beautiful. Everything's really pretty. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of interracial relationships up here. So we do get like strange looks, and it doesn't bother me at all. I think it's hilarious, but it really bothers my boyfriend. Like that people might think that he's like holding me against my will or like doing something crazy. So like we went to the store and this lady asked me if I was okay, if I needed help. Just like really crazy things, just super crazy things. Just like dirty looks or something like that. So it's kind of weird. And I think that's also been a little bit of a source of stress.
For you, him, or both?
Well, it's a source of stress for him, so then it's a source of stress for me.
Okay.
Because he's stressed out.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like it could be a little bit new to have to deal with, I guess.
Yeah.
And so when this is happening, you said you find it hilarious.
I do.
Do you find it hilarious because it's something that you just like? Where is that hilarity coming from? Why do you think it's so hilarious?
Because I just don't understand. I guess I never understood why someone would have a problem with things like that, with interracial relationships, marriages, whatever. A person's a person, so I never really understood why someone would care about someone else's skin color. Like, maybe that's just the way I was raised or where I grew up. I honestly never thought about it. And it might be my own privilege, like my own, like because I'm white, maybe because I've never really dealt with anything like that. Like, I don't understand. But but the thing is, like, the judgment is coming from other white people. It's not coming from people of color. So I guess, like, that's why I think it's funny. Like, why do you have a problem when it's my life and like, I just don't get it.
Okay. And then you said with your boyfriend, he feels differently. So it seems to be more of a spot of stress for him of what they're thinking.
Yeah, he likes people to like him. So his image is pretty big for him. So he wants to make sure that people think, he's kind and fair and all these things. And if people are like asking me, "Oh, are you okay? Or do you need help?" then obviously they think that he's, doing something to me. I don't know. So it's kind of mind-boggling.
Okay. And obviously, this is something that's happening when you are both together. So, it seems as though the two of you have very separate or very different responses to that sort of situation. So, how are you, when you guys do discuss that, how are you feeling about those kinds of discussions? Do you feel like you guys are finding, I guess, like a mutual agreement on or like understanding with each other? Is it something that you think is causing stress with your relationship? On top of, just the fact that you guys are now living together?
I don't think it's a huge source of stress, but I think it's just new for both of us. And whereas for me, I just kind of brush it off, or I become even more like show offy when someone gives me a dirty look. But for him, he's never experienced that. Like, why are people giving me dirty looks? I don't understand. So for him, it's different. It's not necessarily like a huge source of stress, but it's kind of like one more thing, I guess.
Okay. So with that stress that it's then causing, are you guys kind of working through that stress together because it's something that's kind of, I guess, essentially affecting the two of you? Or are you finding that you guys are trying to work through that stress separately?
I try to do it together, but I guess it's hard because we're still learning about each other. So the way he deals with stress drives me nuts, stresses me out. So he'll be like, he'll like want to like take a break or go for a drive or be outside or like just be left alone. And in my mind, I'm like, oh great, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. So because with me, I need to like talk through it until we find a solution. And with him, it's not like that. He just needs to like sit and reflect and no one bother him for like 10 minutes. And then everything's good again. And I have to learn to accept that. And that's hard, very hard for me to accept. Because I'm stubborn.
Okay. So it definitely sounds like you're in a place where you're trying to figure out, I guess, kind of that middle ground, and your way of dealing with stress and his, and that working for both of you essentially. Because I'm sure, with him, it might be the same thing where he's finding it difficult because you have such a different way from his own. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and I guess I don't think of it enough that way. Like for someone who's always used to either doing things on their own or like, this is the way I cope with stress. I just sit and, like, empty my mind, or I go for a drive, or, go for a walk, and I just want to be alone. And all of a sudden, here's this person who's, like, up my butt trying to figure out what's wrong. I can see that be really annoying and frustrating.
Okay. And have you guys talked about that? The fact that you have very different ways of dealing with stress?
Yes. And I think we both just kind of agreed to try a little bit harder and try to be a little bit more, like, understanding of each other. So.
Okay.
But it takes time.
Yeah, I would say it does. Especially when you're getting to know someone, and then you're also living with them, It sounds like it's a lot of new coming at you all at once. So.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I have faith that it'll be okay. So.
Okay. Well, as far as that stress, you can only really control your own stress and the way that you deal with your stress, right?
Yeah.
And you can also control, the way that you handle him when he's stressed and things like that. You can really only control your actions. So in thinking you may be facing stress from different situations pretty much the rest of your life, we all have to handle stress at some point. What do you think are some ways that you can start when it's stress related to him or your relationship? What are some ways that you think you can kind of start working through that in a way that works for you?
I think I need to maybe learn to be a little more reflective, and understand that obviously not everyone is like me. That would be awful. So, just, not taking it as the end of the world, and really just kind of like picking my battles, I guess. And just really also continuously remember that even though it's hard for me, that it's also very hard for him as well.
Okay. So in being more reflective, do you mean in just sitting in a room in silence and thinking? What are different ways that you think you could be reflective?
Yeah, I think maybe just like sitting and just processing some things. And I think that will also help me be able to learn to be by myself a little bit. And kind of go to like the boredom aspect or the freedom aspect that I just am trying to get used to. And then, and I mean, also just having that open communication with him too, like, oh, like, what am I doing that's wrong, or what am I doing that's this? So, and just learning how to communicate with each other and being mindful and like actually remembering things that he says, because sometimes he says things that I don't remember.
Is there a place that you think is easier for you to be more reflective, or to just feel more comfortable to kind of think on your own about what's going on?
I think, well, we have in his house, there's a meditation room, like a prayer room, and then there's a nice backyard and stuff. So I think that would be helpful, where it's not like complete and total noise cancellation, but just kind of like learning how to sit there. It's very hard for me sitting still or just being reflective of something.
Okay. And that may be, I mean, that may be something that may work for you. You know, you have mentioned a couple times now that you are working on getting better at doing things on your own, having freedom to do things and not always having a list of things to get accomplished in a day. You know, maybe if there is a place that you find that's the most comfortable, that could be, you know, like you said, in the backyard, in the meditation room. One of those places could be where you feel the most reflective, in a sense, and that may be beneficial to you. You know, and that doesn't necessarily have to be at home either. Once you get your car and you're able to go places, that may be something to think about as well. Maybe there is another place that you've never really thought about it, but it is a place where you find it very easy to reflect on what's going on. And not just in your relationship, but just in life in general. So that's definitely something I think to think about.
Yeah. I think just trying to make like a space my own too, because I've kind of like, I feel like I've just been kind of like going room to room and like not really making anything my own because I'm kind of like nervous too, but actually like unpacking all of my stuff and putting all my stuff away and like having a place for things. So I think that would really help too.
What do you think is your biggest fear about unpacking, or your biggest concern with unpacking? Why are you holding yourself back from doing that?
Um, I I don't know. I think maybe because I'm kind of like, what if he says to leave? Which is really an irrational thought. But, you know, then I'm like, damn it, I'm going to have to find everything and pack it back up. So, yeah. But it takes me a while to unpack anywhere, truly, and to feel at home somewhere. Because I've moved, I think it stems from, like, me moving so many times when I was younger, like, to the point where we barely even unpacked anything. You know, it'd be somewhere for like 2 months and then we just take our stuff and go. So I think that also kind of stems from it.
Do you feel like you're not going to be there very long? That you shouldn't necessarily worry about getting comfortable or getting settled in?
I mean, hopefully we're not here for too long just because of what our plans are, but I don't think that really has to do with being, I mean, I'll go to hotel rooms and I'll unpack right away. I'll make myself at home in a hotel room, but I think, I don't know, I guess I don't know. That's something I'll probably have to think about.
And in regards to making it more like your own, like you mentioned, and making it feel like it's your place as well, what does that take for you to feel some sense of like ownership in that place?
I don't know. Maybe like setting up. I think it's working a little bit better. Like setting up my desk, setting up my computer, like having my stuff in a in a certain space, like even like it's silly, but like things like my makeup or you know things like that, just having a place to put it.
Okay. And do you have a place for those things now?
I mean, I could put them somewhere. Yes, there's enough space. It's just actually doing it, I think, is kind of what scares me.
Okay. And tell me more about this fear, this what's scaring you about not putting it out, knowing that there's a place for it and that you could turn this space more into a Jackie space. What's holding you back specifically in this place?
Because it's not mine. I don't know. I'm not used to going into like someone's home, or you know what I mean, or people have always lived with me, or I've always provided a place to live for them, or you know, if it was roommates or something, you know, we were moving into the same place together. So I've never actually moved into some place else that was already someone else's home before I got there. And I think that maybe, like, I don't want to intrude.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I can see how you could have those feelings. You know, that's understandable coming into someone else's space, especially from a place like you've mentioned where you have been like a caretaker or you know, like a hostess and things, and then to kind of be the guest coming in. I can understand that could be a little scary. Is this something that you've brought up to your boyfriend and kind of talked to him about to see if you guys can kind of work through that together?
Probably not in the best way. I mean, maybe I have, but probably not in the best way, probably not in the best time. You know, like if I'm at home and I haven't really done anything, then, you know, if he walks through the door, I'm like, I want to talk about this, you know. But for him, it's like, I just got home from work. Like, I don't want to talk about anything, which makes sense. So I guess I just have to think about timing and delivery and my words and, yeah.
Okay. So have you ever tried, you know, in saying that you need to take time to think about your delivery and your words and things, have you ever tried to put it down in like a letter or like an email?
No.
Is that something?
I think I'm more of like a face-to-face person.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I guess it's an idea. Because I feel like a lot of times with words, if you're writing them or texting them or, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's hard to get that point across. Like, I mean, sometimes it's easy, you know, depending on the words, but sometimes if, you know, you say something, then maybe someone, depending on how they're reading it or what mood they're in, they can take it a completely different way.
Okay. And what if you were to write it and then read it to him? So it was more like having almost like a script in front of you. Do you think that could potentially be a way of you being able to almost control the timing and the tone and everything to help you convey what you want to say and in a way that you would feel more comfortable and he would feel more comfortable?
That might be a good idea. I've never thought of it that way.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You're going to do 2 assignments for me for next week. Okay? You are going to find one place, one space that you are going to turn into a Jackie space, whether it is your makeup, as you mentioned, or it is your desk. I want you to really set it up and organize it just for you so that you can start that process. And we'll start with one space and build from there. I also want you to put your feelings down on a piece of paper and see if it does help you kind of reflect a little bit more. And then, you know, you can then choose the timing and everything as far as explaining it to him. But then you can use that kind of as a reference so that you can convey those feelings and see how that goes. And then we'll discuss it next week.
that sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Well, then, same time next week. Does that work?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.